Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering creativity. I'm Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is Chen, who serves as CEO of InTempo. Lou, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I'm so excited to be here, and as many people know, you had a formative influence on InTempo's founding, so this feels very coming a full circle.
Oh, well, absolutely. I am so excited to talk to you. There's so much that we have to try and fit into the show. And as you're right, I've been able to have the opportunity to see the extraordinary impact of InTempo over more than a decade of impact, originally founded by Angelica Durrell. And we'll kind of talk a little bit about that. But first, my first question I just was, can you just share with our audience, what's the kind of scope of InTempo's work and your impact on the community?
Yeah, so InTempo's mission is to empower immigrant children and their families through music education and academic support, primarily in Stanford, but also other areas in Fairfield County, Connecticut. So we were founded 13 years ago by the incredible Angie Durrell as a space where immigrants could make community and music together. And since then, we've undergone a transformational growth. So a couple of highlights. A few years ago, we got a $500,000 grant from the Lewis Prize. We've gotten, now this is our fourth consecutive year as NEA grant recipients. We've increased the staff multifold. The budget has grown from Angie's seed graduation money to a near $1 million organization. And we now serve about 800 children annually. Again, most of them, but not exclusively, immigrant children. And so our core program, our center of excellence, as we call it, is our music school. So that's where our students, about 140 of them, are learning not only classical music, so the violin and the viola, but also instruments native to Latin America, so the charango and the guitar and percussion. And this is really important to us because a large part of making immigrants feel welcome is connecting them to their home cultures, not feeling like they have to sacrifice any part of themselves in coming to America and integrating into our community. We also have a variety of programs in the public schools run at local community partners. So, for example, we have our New Arrivals program, which is where we work with the New Arrivals classes in the Stanford public schools. These are classes made up of students who, in some cases, just arrived in America a few days ago from Afghanistan, Haiti, Ukraine, Ecuador, and we teach them English through music. And this is a program that the public schools pay for, which we're really proud of. It shows their investment. And we also have, for example, a big concert coming up in April, our annual cultural crossover concert, where we showcase, in this case, music from the Andes in collaboration with the local Norwalk Youth Symphony. So again, we do a lot of different things with a lot of different partners, but all aimed at immigrant inclusion through music.
It's just extraordinary work, and obviously the impact on the community is huge, and I think that many would say, now more than ever,
Yes.
The role that InTempo is playing truly be life changing,
Yes.
life saving for many people, which is truly extraordinary. One thing I was thinking, because you kind of recently came into your role as CEO of InTempo, and there's many in our audience who are thinking about different roles, different capacities to fill, things that they want to do in the field. And just wondering for you, kind of why InTempo for you, and why now? What was involved in your decision making as an arts leader
Yeah.
to take on the leadership role of InTempo?
So I think The short answer is that I don't know how much, well, your audience probably knows nothing about me, which is why they're tuning in. But before coming to InTempo, I spent close to 10 years at Princeton University. So I grew up in San Bernardino, California. Went to Princeton for undergraduate, majored in music, minored in orchestral conducting. While I was an undergraduate, I started a string ensemble called the Chen Youth Orchestra that was comprised at the time of 6 Chen High School violin students and 4 Princeton student volunteers. And so we would meet every Saturday at a small house in Chen and learn music together. During my senior year, Gustavo Dudamel was the artist in residence at Princeton. Because of his passion for El Sistema and accessible music education, I was involved in his residency, and my students were able to play for him and do a master class with him. And that really brought a lot of attention on the work we were doing in Tren with this orchestra. So I was offered a position, a full-time position at Princeton by then Provost Debbie Prentice, to stay after graduation and build the youth orchestra into a much larger university program that worked across all the performing arts disciplines we offer. So not just orchestra, but also choir, theater, and dance. So that program is now known as Trend Arts at Princeton, or TAP for short. Similar to InTempo, we have a flagship program that runs every Saturday, where we bring 80 Trent Public School students to campus to learn theater, dance, choir, and orchestra from Princeton students, staff, and faculty. We also have a myriad other programs running in schools and in community partner spaces aimed at bringing together the Trent Public School and Princeton University community. And so, you know, the Trent population is very diverse and has an increasingly large immigrant population. So even though our explicit charge was working with the Trent Public Schools, what we found is that we were naturally working with mainly immigrant children. And so last year we celebrated our 5th anniversary, and you know, I had been at Princeton for 9, 10 years and felt that it was time to try something new, as I'm sure that's how Angie felt when she left InTempo for Harvard. So I found this job. I was immediately compelled by the mission of immigrant inclusion and culturally responsive music. These are two things that are quite unique to InTempo. And so I applied. I was fortunate enough to get the job, and this is my 3rd month, and I have had just the most wonderful time.
It's absolutely wonderful, and thank you so much too, just for kind of, you know, sharing that journey that brought you to InTempo, and now kind of also, and you know, having seen this experience at Sphinx, and curious for you because others certainly experience this in our audience in different ways, shapes, or forms. But you came into an existing organization where a founder was stepping down. And
Yes.
just wondering, sometimes people talk about organizations as they make that transition from
Yes.
founders,
Yes.
and sometimes it's just beautifully smooth, and other times it's a little more dicey, shall we say. And so just curious, any thoughts, experiences, but especially guidance or advice you have for any in our audience
Yeah.
who are either looking to potentially assume a role and or who may have been involved for a long time but are, you know, stepping down
Yes.
from a particular role.
You know, it's interesting you ask this because I am a founder replacing a founder. So I'm experiencing this transition on both sides as I help Princeton transition to my successor, and then also am myself the successor at InTempo. So I have many thoughts. So the first is that the transition within InTempo has been really smooth. And I think this is testament to several things, but all of which come back to how much Angie really nurtured an invested community of people, be they the staff, board, families, or community partners. So let me give you an example. I think one of the biggest things that help with transitions is you have a strong team in place to assume leadership. And Angie had cultivated over the years an incredible staff. So my colleagues, Douglas and Robin, They led the transition as co-interims. Angie assisted as an advisor during that period, is still advising us on certain projects. And so I think Angie had the foresight to bring in people who she knew, whether she realized this or not at the time, could run the organization when it was her time to try something new. And so I think to those of you thinking about starting an organization, it is never too early to think about empowering the right people and bringing on people you trust to continue your legacy. I think that Angie really embedded InTempo in Stanford such that, I go to all these events, and if I tell them I'm the new CEO of InTempo, they don't know what I mean until I say I'm the new Angie. And then their faces light up and they say, oh my gosh, I knew Angie. She's wonderful. You have big shoes to fill and she's doing incredible work. And crucially, they are so bought into Angie, the leader, but they're also bought into InTempo. And so I think another reason the transition has been smooth is that that investment in InTempo, the organization, in addition to Angie, the person, is strong. And again, that's testament to Angie's vision, but also testament to the incredible work that InTempo has done to build trust in the community such that they know that even if I'm a new face, the organization has been doing good work and will continue to do good work with a new person in charge.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. And of course, a testament to your just leadership early on, and continuing things. It's really just fantastic. Unfortunately, we are just about out of time, but I always like to ask of all of my guests, obviously it's the excitement. You've taken the reins of a new organization and having all of this incredible impact, but there must be some tough days. And so just wondering, as a leader, do you have any mechanisms or things you do when you have tough days that you could share with our audience, something that helps you get through, or when you feel you're faced with an insurmountable challenge?
It's the same thing I've done since I was a kid. Go to a concert. That's just me. I live, breathe, and sleep music, and it's oftentimes when you're at your most stressed that it can feel like, well, why would I want to leave my apartment and do something active? But I have never forced myself to go to a concert that I haven't, that I've regretted. It's always incredibly nourishing. It's good to be reminded of why you do what you do, and whether that concert is pre-K students hammering away on drums or the Berlin Phil playing a Dvorak symphony. It's always a vital reminder.
Chen, you truly are one of the arts engines who is powering human creativity in our world. Thank you so much for everything that you do for your community, for your organization, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Aaron. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you.